Today we're talking about mistakes that I see retirees making when it comes to their financial planning and their retirement planning. Hi, I'm Antonio Cibella with Vision Wealth Management. I'm a financial advisor who's worked with I don't know how many bunches and bunches of folks as they're planning for their retirement, and then once they've retired and working through their retirement years. And I've seen a lot of stuff, and I decided to do a video. I wrote down 3 things that I've seen folks do that they've regretted or that we've talked about, and they said, boy, I wish I would have known this, or I wish I would have done that differently. And the idea is, if you're planning for your own retirement, maybe you'll learn something today from someone else's mistake instead of making it yourself. Maybe it'll provoke a little bit of thought and change the way you do things. And so here we go. The first thing that I see folks do is that they wait too long. And I don't specifically mean they wait too long to retire, although that goes along with this as well. Right now I'm talking about they wait too long to access their retirement money. And so emotionally, for years you've put money away and you've worked and you've saved and you've invested and you've gone like, I can't touch that money, that's future money. And then you get to retirement, you pull the trigger, you jump off the cliff. It completely changes everything because there's no more paycheck coming in, and folks are hardwired to conserve that money because for 30, 40, 50, 60 years that's been like, don't touch this money. And now it's time to actually use it. And a lot of times they really hold back. They go like, whoa, maybe we'll just use a little bit, but we're going to wait, or we don't want to start to touch that yet. I've worked with clients who have done that. They've retired and they've said like, well, no, we don't need to touch this yet. We don't want to touch it. Let's just let it sit. And time goes on and time goes on. And they've come back later and said to me, boy, we wish we would have spent some of this. We wish we would have used it. We wish we would have traveled more or done the things that we wanted to do, but we were so worried about running out of money that we didn't do it. And now we're at a place where we have this money, but it's not as useful to us. So in retirement planning, we talk about different stages, and the 3 stages in general are like the go-go years. That's when you first retire and you're doing all of the fun stuff, checking off the bucket list, all of that. Then there's like the slow-go years where you're still doing some things, but you're starting to slow down. And at the end is the no-go years. We're cute with retirement planning, so we make things rhyme like that. The no-go years are, you're around. Maybe you're going to the grandkids' games or things like that, but you're not traveling. The travel days are done. All of that stuff has happened. Healthcare becomes very important to you at that stage. What you don't want to do is push off spending and utilizing the assets that you've put away in that first stage, in the go-go years, when you can get the most functional use from them, create the most happiness for yourself by using the assets that you put away. Now, that's not to say spend down all your money. Have a plan and make sure that the plan supports it. But if the plan supports it, spend the money. That's mistake number 1. The second piece of mistake number 1, when they don't spend the money, is if it's all in money that's to be taxed, if it's all 401k, traditional IRA money, and you're not using it, and you're going to have a required minimum distribution on it in the future, you have to take that money out each year, whether you spend it or not, at a certain point, starting at age 73 now. And if you've just allowed those funds to continue to defer for another 6, 7, 8 years, they've become larger, which means that the required minimum distribution is now larger, which means that the taxes due on the required minimum distribution are now larger. And so you're creating a larger tax bill for yourself, depending on the planning that you're doing to help minimize that if you're not accessing money early. Oftentimes, it can make sense to use some of that money, 1, to fund the goals. 2, if you don't need it to fund the goals because your retirement is just like that rock solid good on you, that's great. You still might want to look at Roth conversions or shifting some of that money out depending on where your income is, because as you know, the higher your income, the greater the amount of taxes you're going to pay on a percentage basis. The second mistake I see is, where are you drawing the money from? So let's assume that you're taking money out as you should. You're living a good retirement. This is more of a math error than an emotional conversation, but where are you drawing the money from? So once upon a time, it was, don't touch the 401k, the IRA. We'll spend the money that's sitting in the bank because interest rates were really low. It was readily accessible. It didn't create a tax bill to start to utilize that money. And so folks continued to defer. Goes back to what I just talked about. You're continuing to defer that money. It's going to create a larger tax bill in the future. Also, you can't pass that money on as efficiently as you used to be able to. So you used to pass on those IRAs, 401ks to your beneficiaries, to your kids, and they could stretch it for a long period of time. The original Secure Act did away with that. And so it created a 10-year window to take all of the money out. And so that 10-year window can create a meaningful tax bill for your beneficiaries if you pass on this big chunk of money because you used the stuff that was readily accessible, the cash in the bank and things like that. Again, this goes back to planning. Have a good plan. You should have your assets structured out. You should understand where you're drawing from to help manage the tax bill, also to create enough income for you and to mind future potential tax liabilities that you may be creating. But it's important where you draw your money from. Taking it from non-taxable accounts to preserve future taxes in larger amounts is typically a bad strategy at this point. And so you want to be mindful of where you're drawing your money from in retirement. The third mistake. Now, this seems more prevalent now because of everything that's going on, but it's underestimating inflation. Nobody used to worry about inflation when it was relatively low, but it would still eat away at a retirement plan. We used to jokingly refer to it as the silent killer of retirement plans because without planning for it, it's just eating away at the value of your money. And it still does that. It's more front and center now because we've had such high inflation over the last couple of years. But even if we didn't, it still can have a meaningful impact. And here's what I mean. If you're planning for 20 to 30 years of retirement, which you should, people are living longer, they're around a longer period of time, they need their money to last longer. What cost you $1 on the day that you retire, 25 years later, even with historically average inflation, 3%, it's going to cost you a lot more than $1. So I did the math at 3% over 25 years, $1 equals $2.12. So if you needed to take $1 out of the retirement account to buy whatever you could possibly buy with $1, which is not very much, fast forward closer to the end of your retirement, even with average inflation, you're going to need to take out $2.12. And so from a dollar perspective, you're going to need more money as retirement progresses just to maintain the lifestyle, just to maintain the standard of living. That's not improving the standard of living. That's, I have to take more money because costs are going up. Now, I know that that makes sense, but when you actually look at what that means, it can be pretty substantial in the impact that it has on a retiree and their portfolio. Now, I'll give you an example of inflation in action. So again, this is just considering run-of-the-mill historic inflation, nothing like what's happened over the last couple of years. This is at a 3% inflation rate. Let's say that you retire, you've got $500,000, and based on your retirement income plan, you got to draw $1,500 a month from it. So you say like, oh, I'm in pretty good shape for retirement. I'm drawing 3.6%. I have a 3.6% distribution rate. That's 3.6% of my $500,000 drawn out over the course of the year pays the bills, $1,500 a month, which is $18,000 a year. So you start out and you think that you're in pretty good shape, and then time goes by and things get more expensive, and each year you got to take a little more than $1,500 to maintain the standard of living. Or you just take the same $1,500 and your standard of living goes down, which is not a recipe for a good retirement. And you start to look at the impact that that has on withdrawals. Well, the same numbers that I just ran, 3% per year over the course of 25 years means $1,500 equals $3,186 per month by the time you get to the end of the plan. Now, it doesn't start at $1,500 and then jump up there. It goes up and up and up and up and up. But once you get to the point where you're drawing over $3,000 a month, on that same portfolio value, you got big problems. Hopefully your assets have grown enough to support it, but you need to be mindful of that because now in that same circumstance, you're at a 7.6% distribution rate. You're taking out over 7% of the portfolio each year. That's a snowball rolling downhill, not in a good way. That's a really high hurdle to have to out-earn. And so almost certainly with a distribution rate like that, you're going to see your account balance going down. And if you've been drawing over the years from it, becomes a risk that you could run out of money. So mistake number 3, understand inflation and plan accordingly when it gets to be time to do the retirement income plan. Make sure that you've got enough wiggle room to increase the value of the withdrawals, to maintain the standard of living throughout retirement, and know that you're comfortable with the amount of risk that you may have as to whether you'd run out of money or not. That's important. Inflation, the silent killer, it'll creep up on you. Make sure that it doesn't. Plan ahead for that sort of thing. Now, what can you do when it comes to these 3 things to make sure that you don't fall prey to them when you're planning your own retirement? Have a retirement income plan. I've mentioned it a few times in the video already, but part of a financial plan, retirement income, where am I going to draw all the income from? How am I going to do it? what's the likelihood that I can withstand it regularly. And in some of my other videos, you see me talk about bucket plans. We talk about that all the time. It's a good way to keep the emotion out of the investment plan when you get to retirement. Lots more videos about that, as well as additional retirement planning topics. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Check out some of those other videos. I'll pop one of them up on a card or something here in a second so that you can go check it out. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Come on back. Watch some of the other stuff that we have. I thank you for being here today. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you soon.